All right, everybody, welcome to How to Hold a Tarantula for Trinity Church. My name is Robbie Hall. I'm the Reston campus pastor of Trinity Church, and we have a lot of ground to cover today, and so I'm excited for us to get moving. There's a lot of fill in the blanks in the document that we prepared for you, so follow along there. Whether you're here in the room or whether you're seeing us online or at another campus, we're so glad you guys have taken some time out of your day to join us. So I want to talk first about just the whole principle. People have asked, why in the world have you named something How to Hold a Tarantula? Of all the names that you could pick, why would you name it this? Well, the truth is I named it this because I have a nephew that one day he told his parents he wanted to own a tarantula. And he had been saving money and trying to convince his parents that he would be good with them. And finally, to prove to you that I have absolutely crazy people in my family, they let him get a tarantula. And he hasn't just had one tarantula, not two, not three. He has had 4 tarantulas total. And I think he has three alive right now. One has passed away. I know we're all upset about that. But you'll meet them in just a few moments, not live and in person. Some people ask me, are you going to have any tarantulas there? We were planning on giving tarantulas to everybody, but it didn't work out. We couldn't find any pregnant tarantulas, so that did not work out. So here's the thing. We all have a natural fear of tarantulas. Nobody has to come and teach almost any normal human, and I told you my family's not normal. That's why my nephew loves them. But nobody has to teach an average person, hey, be afraid of tarantulas. And some of you might be like, well, I don't like them that much. Some of you, you're deathly afraid of spiders of any sort, and therefore tarantulas are like the ultimate, this is a terrible thing, right? And the reason I think is because people around my age, there was a particular movie that came out in the 90s that told us we should be afraid of tarantulas because something happened in this movie that was the worst imaginable thing that could happen involving a tarantula. What was that movie? What was the movie? Anybody? Home Alone. That's exactly right. Y'all know the scene I'm talking. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, give me just a moment. Take a second. Direct your eyes to the screen for the Home Alone scene that began or maybe solidified our fears of tarantulas. Check it out.
Ah! I got you! I got him, Harry! I got him! Harry, get up! Give me a hand! Ow! I got him! Harry, help me get up! I got him!
All right. That's sort of one of those scenes that most people remember from that movie as Marv, not the very good burglar, had a tarantula put on his face, and Caleb, my nephew, said that he watched that scene, that movie, and he thought, this is perfect. If anybody ever broke into our house, I could take a tarantula and put it on their face, and it would protect us. Now, I could think of a lot of other measures of home defense that would be more effective than that, but that's what he thought. And then he said this quote to me when I interviewed him for this, before we did the very first one of these. Caleb Hall, my nephew, said, you know what? Tarantulas are so cool. He said, if they were as big as dogs, this is going to be on the screen, you don't have to write it down. If they were as big as dogs, they would be the coolest animals. Some of y'all are like, that's just not true at all. Then we would all have reasons to live in high rises and never leave our homes. So most people here, when you think of a young man who loves spiders, you think, okay, he's a little crazy, but he's a little guy. Maybe he doesn't know better. Who's really crazy in this household is who? His parents, absolutely. My brother and his wife, those have to be the craziest people there. And to Caleb, I said, Caleb, what in the world, why tarantulas? Why do you like them? And he said, because they're the biggest and the best spider. I said, what are some cool things that you've learned about tarantulas? So just to give you your tarantula education tonight before we launch into what we're really here to talk about, he said he knew a little bit, but then he started reading journals and reading articles and science books, even as young as when he was in kindergarten. He learned about the habitats where they live. For some of you, you were not nervous enough about tarantulas. I want to make you a little bit nervous. There's not like 1 or 2 or 3 species of tarantulas. There's more than 900 species of tarantulas. The biggest one is called the Goliath bird eater tarantula, and its size is about the size of a dinner plate. It's huge. Their lifespan, some of you didn't know this will keep you up at night. They don't live a little while. Most males live at least about 10 to 12 years. And the females, they can live 15 to 20 years. In fact, the Mexican red knee tarantula can live more than 35 years. For food and water, they can go almost, you're like, okay, starve them out. They can go for almost a year without food or water because they can store what they've absorbed into their body. They can eat anything from a cricket all the way up to a full-grown pit viper if the tarantula is large enough. They don't just bite, they also hiss if they weren't scary enough. Tarantulas hiss like a cat, and they have flicking hairs. They can put, he told me the name, but they can basically do that with their back legs, and they flick hairs with you, and the hairs aren't just normal, like, oh, they're hairs because they're mad. No, they're barbed hairs that stick into your skin and cause irritation and damage. The webs they spin, they have actually 4 different types of silk that they can spin. They have regular, extra sticky, extra thin, and extra thick, and it depends on the situation. They can spin any one of those 4 different types of silk on command. For their hair, their eyesight tends to be pretty poor, even though they have 8 eyes, but they have hair, and so when they sense that airflow is blocked in a different direction with the sensitivity of the hair on their body, they know that there's an object there, and that's where they learn to attack or to direct their movement. Their fangs, the Goliath bird eater tarantulas can have fangs that are at least 1 inch long, and tarantula bites hurt, this is what's fascinating, simply because of the size of their fangs. Not actually because most of them are not all that poisonous. In fact, in chemical tests of their venom, they have seen that even though their jaws are powerful and their fangs are large, their venom has several components chemically, but it's basically almost, for most tarantulas, almost identical to a bee's venom. That's about how toxic it is. And it's a syrupy texture, and their bite, it doesn't tend to be worse than whatever your response is to a bee sting, that's what it would be to being bit by most tarantulas. And for their reproductions, this will help you also sleep at night. The females can have 80 to 100 kids in a single session of having kiddos. Males normally get eaten and killed and eaten by the females after they mate. And I want to introduce you to a field. We're like, Robbie, we want to see pictures of tarantulas. Well, you're in luck. I have pictures of tarantulas. Here is Charlotte. This is Caleb's first tarantula. I know you can't see that all that well. Charlotte, moment of silence. She's the one that passed away fairly recently. Charlotte she was about the size of my hand. She's huge spider, huge spider. She lived for 13 years. Harriet was his next spider. By the way, Charlotte is a Chaco golden knee. Harriet is a Mexican red knee. She will live 25 to 35 years. Pinky is the next. Pinky is a common pink toe spider. She will live 10 to 15 years. She had a bad hair day. She's, really angry. And then we have Vulcan, who is a Mexican flame leg, who will live more than 25 years, more than likely. Now, most people think, well, that's way too dangerous, way too gross. I would never let my kids, I don't care how crazy, I would never let my kids have a tarantula. And here's what Caleb said about tarantulas. He said, actually, this is going to be up on the screen. Actually, tarantulas is in your notebook too. They're not that dangerous because if I get bitten, I would not die. Compared to a lot of other things on earth, tarantulas are probably one of the least dangerous animals I've ever heard of. There's more dangerous stuff in your backyard than a tarantula. So I found out as I was talking with Caleb about tarantulas that sometimes if you own a tarantula, you have to hold them. Typically, you've got to do something because you've got to get them out of their cage to clean their cage. They're actually pretty clean little critters. They clean themselves like a cat. Some of you are like, I don't like cats either. That doesn't help. But they clean themselves like a cat. And so that you have to typically, to get them out of their cage, a lot of times, if you're familiar with them enough, you kind of scoot them onto your hand and pick them up and put them somewhere else and you clean their cage. So Caleb says, on average, he's holding his tarantulas about 2 to 3 times a year to clean their cage, and then sometimes more if he does presentations for people. And I said, Caleb, tell me something. I've titled this, How to Hold a Tarantula. And I said, Caleb, how do you hold a tarantula? And here's what he said. He said, carefully. That's your first fill in. Carefully. Now, let's pretend your nightmare has come true. And we all live in an everybody must own a tarantula world. Your nightmare scenario, everybody has to own a tarantula. This is the next slide. We all live and everybody must have a tarantula in their home. There is no exception. It's just the rules of the world, and everybody has to have one. In fact, there are literal places on this planet, if you go on mission trips that you go to, and this is actually an asset. When you have a tarantula in your home, you want one in each room because it's basically free pest control. This actually happens, but let's just pretend that's our world. You have to live with tarantulas in your home as a normal part of your experience. But you have this natural, uneducated, uncoaxed fear of tarantulas that is unexplainable. How many of you have ever actually held a tarantula in real life? How many of you have ever actually held one? Okay, a few of us. How many of you have only ever seen one on the other side of glass in something like a zoo or a pet store? How many of you have ever caught a tarantula running through your home, across your legs in the middle of the night, and you woke up screaming, right? How many of you have ever had to kill a tarantula in your own home? One person. She lived in the Southwest, right? Where'd you live?
In my home.
In your home. Where were you living? What state was this in? Here. All right. So listen, guys, we're all going to move, okay? Because I found out this is a normal fear. I put up a question on Facebook just this week saying, basically, here's the question. It said, if I found out my home was infested with tarantulas, the first group of crazy people said, there were a few people that said, keep them. One person, our campus coordinator, said she would name them, make them her friends, and they would live together. That's not what would happen. The second group, 17% of people said scream or panic. This next group right here is the most concerning because it was 3 people that were either church staff members or married to church staff members. They become an arsonist and just burn down their own home. Call someone to help, 28%, or move, 44%. This is a serious fear for a lot of us. So here's the thing. With most of us, the most unusual response I got was one person who said that they wanted to call Steve Irwin. Yeah, he's dead. He's dead. That's not going to work out. And ironically, he was died by being stung. Okay, so yes, by a stingray. He still got stung. They're cousins or something, I'm certain of it. But plenty of people, here's the thing. Plenty of people have come in my office and said something along the lines of, Pastor Robbie, my life is unraveled. Something going on. Something's happened. Not one person has ever come in my office and said that the reason their life is unraveled is because of some sort of encounter with a tarantula. It's a fear that we have of something we basically never encounter. And yet we have this intense fear. And if I told you today, hey, listen, I have a free house for you, you can totally have it, but it's totally infested with tarantulas and you can't get rid of them, y'all would say, absolutely not. It doesn't matter how. It's worth $10 million. I don't care. Can I get rid of them? No, they have to stay there. But we will let the internet come into our home, unfiltered, unguarded, unchecked, unmanaged. And if I told you I had a $10 million home where there was no internet and you never could have any internet, you might say, well, as long as it's on a tropical, no. Most people would go, oh, hold on, I'm not sure if I can live at that home. We must have the internet at our home. I have a question, sort of a combined question for you. Why do we fear tarantulas, something we will likely never encounter, while simultaneously not fearing something that has immense power or immense sway over our lives? Because after all, folks, this is my dad joke for you tonight, it is called the World Wide Web. All right, so here's the goal. This is going to be up on the screen. The goal I have for you tonight is I want to give you a healthy fear of the internet. You have a fear of spiders that's honestly unreasonable, uncoaxed, uneducated, untrained, and it's just there from birth. I don't think that we're born with a fear of something that can be a great asset to us, but also lots of people have come into my office and told me stories about how their life is unraveled, and it might be topic A, but it was conduit B, and the conduit nowadays, most of the time, has to do with the internet in some way, shape, or form. I want to tell you where this began. It began with my cousin, or with my nephew, Caleb, but then before that was where we got the name from. Before that, when I knew we had to talk to families about this, was one day when Micah, my son, who is now 17 years old, going on 18, when he was just a little guy, when he was 7 years old, He came to me in the kitchen. This is one of those moments with parents one day where you've been there, where your child comes and says something to you, and it was good or it was terrible, and whatever it was, you'll remember where you were for the rest of your life. And this was one of those moments. Mike came to me and he said, Dad, there's this guy who was talking to me on Clash of Clans today. We had let him join Clash of Clans. He was in a clan. It's something that we monitored. I was playing with him. His uncle was playing with him. His cousins were playing with him. Other neighbors were, but he said there was this guy he didn't know that was in the clan. And he started talking to me, and this is going to be up on the screen. Here's how their conversation went. The guy said, hi, how old are you? Where do you live? Micah said, America, because we had talked about this. He knew that he could answer America. I said, don't be rude. Tell people the country, but no, nothing else. What state? Micah said, I'm not going to tell you. And then he said, well, what states, look at this. What states are around you? Micah, not going to tell you. And then the guy said, well, why won't you tell me? Because my parents told me not to. And then he asked this, do you do everything your parents tell you to do? Why are your parents so controlling? Now, I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for a while. But I thought, this is a ministry opportunity from me to this guy. So I got on Clash of Clans and I told him, if I tell you where I live, will you promise to come visit me? This is Micah's dad. I want to meet you in person, face to face. And he disconnected from the chat. But from that moment, guys, I mean, some of you, you're imagining your little baby being on the other side of that chat. And what I thought was three questions. Number one, what if we had not talked to Micah about how to act online and how to interact with strangers? Number one, scared me thinking about that. Wow, we just thought it was like, he'll get to this eventually. This will happen one day, but not yet. Number one. Number two, I thought, what if he had just ignored us and thought, oh, this is just a guy in Clash of Clans. I mean, I told him, but he ignored. What if he just ignored us? And then number three is the reason we're here tonight, because I thought, do the parents at our church know how to prepare their kids for moments like this? What if this had been one of the kids at the church where I'm a pastor? And so Joni and I started talking about what would it look like for us to talk to people about this topic. So here's a quote from the U.S. Department of Justice. It's on your page. Never before in the history of telecommunications media in the United States has so much indecent and obscene material been so easily accessible by so many minors in so many American homes with so few restrictions. We feel that. We get the internet installed. How often do you buy something and immediately have to put the brakes on it? It doesn't happen all that much, but with the internet, we recognize there is some danger, but when are we supposed to do something and what are we supposed to do? And what if I don't have kids? Or what if it's just me? Well, what we know is that because of the internet, it's tougher, I think, to raise kiddos today than when we were growing up. Some of you are like, oh, I'm so glad there were not cell phones with video cameras on them when I was doing that. You know, I was with my friends, and if they'd been able to video that, that would have plagued me the rest of my life. In fact, I think it's true. And research shows that this is by a company that we respect, Bark Technology, says that 78% of parents believe that raising kids today is more difficult than what it was when they were children. 78%. How many of you here today would say, I think it's more difficult raising kids and growing up in this culture today than when I was a kid? Raise your hands. How many of you think it's, yeah, I mean, it's almost everybody. Every generation might have the same challenges. It's just these challenges seem more consequential and more quick, and they're more prone to danger. So they did a survey of why is parenting more difficult today. They ranked the top 10 reasons, or the top 9 reasons that parents gave when they solicited this response. And they got all the way through this list, and right there listed at number 1, the reason that parenting they thought was more difficult today is because of technology. This is another fill-in, technology and social media. Technology and social media for the reason that it's more difficult today. A lot of these factors in 2 through 9 have been with us since the dawn of mankind. This is a brand new one. After all, folks, the iPhone didn't come out. Who knows what year the iPhone came out? The first major smartphone where we could access the internet like a mini computer. 2007, June of 2007, announced in January 2007, released in July or June of 2007. It hasn't been around that long, and yet it has enormous influence. Bark Technologies Research, which is a great company, surveyed more than 3.4, look at this, 3.4 billion messages, digital messages. This included email, text, from more than 30 popular apps and the main social media platforms. They were looking for themes and commonalities among these messages, especially among tweens and teenagers. Tweens meaning kids that are somewhere around the age from 10 to 12, and then teenagers 13 to 19. And here's some of the data that they found. There's a lot of fill in the blanks here, but it's meant to capture your attention because remember, my goal is to give you a healthy fear of the internet. 43% of tweens and 75% of teens were involved in suicidal ideation. Folks, when you walk past a teen or a tween and you see a group of four of them, according to this data, of 3.4 billion messages, 3 out of 4 of them might have had some interaction of suicidal ideation in some digital form, speaking with somebody through their phones, through their computer. 69% of tweens and 91% of teens involve nudity or consent or content of a sexual nature in these digital communications. Look at those numbers, folks. Hey, here's what we found. When we talked with middle school girls, they talked about the fact that nowadays, if you are dating a young man or you're interested in a young man, it is expected, it's just like normal, that you are going to send him at some point towards the beginning or before the beginning of your relationship a nude photograph of yourself digitally to him. It's just expected. And according to this, it's happening a lot, not just nude photographs of each other, but nudity or content of a sexual nature, 69% of tweens, 91% of teens. 75% of tweens, 93% of teens had conversations surrounding drugs or alcohol. 92% of tweens and 85% of teens experienced bullying as a bully, as a victim, or as a witness. Next slide. 32% of tweens, 57% of teens engaged in conversations about depression. Mental illness is becoming a big topic. Well, guess what? It's not just confined to adults. It's happening in discussions among our kiddos. 81% of tweens, 95% of teens express or experience violent subject matter thoughts. 81 and 95%. Are you a little bit more afraid? Let's talk about the specific thing that a lot of times comes up in these discussions, which is pornography. Let's talk about pornography and its prevalence in our country. 40 million US adults regularly visit the more than 42 million internet pornography websites. Now, that's just regularly visit. That's not the number of people who go to it not regularly, infrequently. 40 million are regularly using. And the porn industry revenue is more than the NFL, NBA, and MLB combined. That's pro football, pro baseball, and pro basketball. More than their total revenue combined. 35% of all internet downloads are related to pornography. 35% of all internet downloads. Let's talk about pornography in our homes. 47%, fill in the blanks, 47% of families in the United States reported that pornography is a problem in their home. 47%. 22% of online porn is consumed by children, look at this folks, under the age of 10 years old. 11 is the average age of a child. This should break your heart. 11 is the average age that a child is first exposed to pornography. 94% of children will see pornography by the age of 14. 94%. And every day, 116,000 internet search queries are performed related in some way to child pornography. Let's talk about pornography in our marriages. 55% of married men and 25% of married women say they watch porn at least once a month. At least once a month. 55 and 25. Pornography use increases the rate of marital infidelity by more than 300%. If you're a person who wants to try to affair-proof your marriage, we can do it really simple. Just don't look at pornography and you drop your statistical odds enormously. Let me give you an aside as a pastor with almost 26 years of experience. Not once have I ever encountered an affair with either the wife or the husband stepping outside of their marriage that did not in some way include internet pornography. Every one of them, dozens and dozens and dozens of affairs through the years. 68% of divorce cases involve one party meeting a new paramour over the internet. 56% of all divorce proceedings cite an obsessive interest in pornographic websites. 10% of U.S. adults admit to having an addiction to internet pornography. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's one. 10%. Now, we love people with brokenness. If we didn't love people with brokenness of any sort, then we couldn't have church. But folks, there's something about this new age that we're living in that gives us instant access to content from what might be in another age, momentary temptation. And instantly you can access that temptation through your cell phone or your computer. Also, ladies, just in case we're thinking this is a men's issue, 17% of all women struggle with porn addiction. 17%. And then, by the way, every year, according to the data I've seen, because I try to update these numbers every time we do this class, it goes up every single year. And that's what the statisticians say, that it's going up. Also, 70% of women admit to keeping their cyber activity secret for some reason or in some way. And 1 out of 3, 1/3 of internet porn viewers are women. Now that you're encouraged, let's talk about a few more stats. The Pew Research Center 2021, so pretty fresh research, said that 95% of U.S. teens have a smartphone. By the way, that's up from 73% in 2014 to 2015. 95%. That's why I'm telling you, you live in an everybody must own a tarantula world. You're not going to get around this issue. And by the way, even if you're a family that puts it on lockdown, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, we're not going to, I know the answer to this, we're going to lock it down. That's not the solution. We'll talk about why in just a little bit. But when you do that, you can control what cell phone you don't give your child, but what about their friend's cell phone? What about their friend's computer? What about the access that they can find on your computer? Up from 73% in 2014 to 2015. And remember, how many kids had a smartphone before June of 2007? How many? Say zero. Zero. This is 16 years, folks. From 0 to 95%. 90% of U.S. teens have a desktop or laptop computer. 97% of teens say they use the internet daily. 95% of teens use YouTube, and 19% use it almost constantly. 71% of teens have done something to hide what they do online from their parents. More than 7 out of 10 teens. 46% of teens said they use the internet almost constantly, again, up from 24% in 2014 to 2015. And teens, this should break your heart too, teens average more than 7 hours a day, 7 hours a day on screen entertainment. As a matter of fact, screen entertainment is beginning to rival the amount of sleep that teens get on a daily basis. They are on a screen almost as much time as they are sleeping. And within the next few years, I promise you, it will eclipse it. Now, by the way, let's do that math. Let's do that math just to prove how out of control this issue is. 7 hours a day, if you do the math over the course of the year, is a little bit more than 106 days a year that means your average teenager is spending in front of some sort of a screen for entertainment. I remember my kids, when we set up these parameters to begin with, when they got any sort of screen in front of them for the first time, we were going through and setting limits, and you could, with some of the devices and apps we're going to show you can set limits down to the minute. And we told them, we went through, and one of them, the most surprising one to Joni and I was the App Store. We got to the App Store, we were like, 15 minutes. I mean, that's where you're looking for stuff. It's, the experience on a cell phone is already a vicarious experience, right? You're not actually doing anything. Now you're searching about not doing anything. They only need 15 minutes a day. The kids came to us and began to complain that they kept running out of time on their cell phones. I just can't believe how horrible we are as parents. And I was like, guys, let's do that math. If you limit your child in any app to 15 minutes of time per day, that's 3.8 days per year of your child being in an app searching for apps. Here's what I call a hidden tarantula: social media. In 2003, an estimated 4.9 billion people used social media across the globe. That's expected to swell by 2027 to nearly 6 billion people. 67%, and this is another feeling, of teens say they use TikTok, which is now the number one traditional social media platform for teenagers, not for adults. What's the number one social media platform for just us regular folks? Facebook. Oh, you thought you were so cool and hip when you got your Facebook. You figured out the albums that you're not going to put all the photos into the mobile category, every one of them. Like, oh, yeah, I know how to do. Oh, I figured out how to share a GIF. Some of y'all are overdoing it. Let's back off a little bit. And your kids are like, we're already on to TikTok. And does anybody know what the next largest social media platform is becoming very quickly, what it's called? Not Snapchat. That was actually before TikTok. Be Real. It's called Be Real. How many of you in here have not, be honest, it's okay. We're all learning here today. Have you never heard of Be Real before? I just said it. It will eclipse TikTok probably in the next 2 to 3 years at most. 32% of teens report using Facebook. That's down. Look how quickly the landscape changes. This is why you got to be here tonight. 32% of teens report using Facebook. That's down from 71% in 2014 to 2015. From 71%, Facebook's like, we're killing this teen demographic. Now it's less than half. 39% of social media users report that they are addicted to social media. 4 out of 10 say, I acknowledge that I'm probably addicted to social media. And the average person in the United States, not just teenagers, spends about 145 minutes per day on social media. Hey folks, is this out of control? Is this out of control? Oh, audible responses. If you don't think, you can say no. Is this out of control? Are you a little bit more afraid? Let's keep going. Here's the data. This made me smile and prove why God gave parents for kids. 59% of teens, they say, spend more than 4 hours a day on social media. 145 minutes for an average person across all demographics, more than 4 hours a day on social media, but only 64% of teens say that the amount of time they spend on social media is about right or too little. Let's review that again. Y'all get the comedy here. 59% more than 4 hours, and 64% say, it's about right or maybe even too little. I'm really holding back. Only 36% in that same survey said that they were spending too much time on social media. TikTok. This is going to surprise some of you. TikTok in July 2022, Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner, this is our United States governmental entity charged with the oversight of social media, wrote a letter, listen to this, to the CEO of Apple and the CEO of Google, asking them to take TikTok off of their app stores, which would basically kill the app in the US. Which would basically, they hope, maybe kill the app even worldwide. And here's why. Here's what was posted. Here's his quote. TikTok is not what it appears to be on the surface. It is not just an app for sharing funny videos or memes. That's the sheep's clothing. At its core, TikTok functions, here's your fill-in, as a sophisticated surveillance tool that harvests extensive amounts of personal and sensitive data. Indeed, TikTok collects everything. Listen to this. From search and browsing histories to keystroke patterns, not even what you type, the pattern in which you type it. Biometric identifiers, fingerprints, face, including face prints, which researchers have said might be used in unrelated facial recognition technology, and voice prints, what your voice sounds like. It collects location data as well as draft messages, stuff that you didn't even send. If you typed it TikTok's collecting it and metadata, plus it has collected the text, images, and videos that are stored on a device's clipboard. Holy cow, and that's the number one. The FCC commissioner was going, not from a Christian perspective, just from a, this is crazy. Guys, would you take it off your app stores? 67% of US teens, I don't think this is in your book, it might be, say that they use TikTok. 32, I'm sorry, that's data we've already said. Here's Facebook's first president. We're going to see in just one second. This is the guy that helped found Facebook. And he, along with Mark Zuckerberg and the rest of the social network founders, say that this is what he's confessing now, a guy who's come out as largely against social media, saying that they created Facebook and social media to intentionally exploit vulnerabilities in human psychology. That the inventor of the like button is a really famous person now because they knew it was just this tiny little dopamine hit when you post something and people hit the like button. So Sean Parker, who helped found, before Facebook, the music sharing service Napster, I'm not going to get you to admit if you used that. The government's still looking for you probably. He helped form Napster before Facebook as president in 2004. That was when Facebook was less than a year old. And the point of making Facebook, they said one of their initial goals was to consume as much time, as much of people's free time as possible. And now Sean Parker has come out, he said, I've got to come out and let people know that this thing is more dangerous than they could possibly understand. Here's a quote for you from the first president of Facebook. He said, when Facebook was getting going, I had these people who would come up to me and they would say, I'm not on social media. And I would say, okay, you will be. And then they would say, no. I value, some of you have had conversations like this. I value my real life interactions. I value the moment. I value presence. I value intimacy. And I would say, we'll get you eventually. I don't know if I really understood the consequences of what I was saying because of the unintended consequences of what a network, when it grows to 1 billion or 2 billion people, it literally changes your relationship with society, with each other. It probably interferes with productivity in weird ways. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains. But don't just listen to me talk about it. Here's a video of Sean Parker telling you a little bit more. Pay close attention to what he says.
You know, if the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them to really understand it, that thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you, more likes and comments. I mean, it's a social validation feedback loop that it's like it's exactly the kind of thing that a hacker like myself would come up with because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. And I think that we the inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's the Kevin Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these people understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
I'm going to read that part of that last quote to you one more time. We were exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. The inventors understood this consciously, and we did it anyway. Now, to be clear, he has now come out as largely against social media because this interview talks about there have been some great things that have gone on because of social media, some things that have been exposed that wouldn't be exposed because it was a little guy letting people know about it. People have gotten kidney donations. We've reconnected long-lost siblings and parents to children. Some stuff, good stuff has gone on, but largely on the balance, a lot of these people are sending their kids who were the inventors of social media and grew with it are now sending their kids to tech-free schools, completely tech-free schools. Zero technology, not a computer, not a TV, not a phone, not a tablet, nothing in the school because of the detrimental effects of the product which they created. Let me ask you, is this out of control? Yep. I'm gonna scare you a little bit more before we get to the solution. What's next on the digital horizon? What's next? There's something called a new. I guess we ran out of names. Creativity might be a little dead. Nunu.co. Now, if you go there, the website is defunct right now. The domain name is still owned. And they said they were going to do this. I'll explain in just a little bit where they said they were going to do this. But I called it before it went offline. It had a big New York Times article talking about Nunu. Now, I want to show you kind of the main premise of the social interactions on Nunu. Check out this video.
Hey guys, I have some errands to run today, and every time I have errands to run, I usually go get a coffee, but I'm debating if I should get an iced coffee today or a hot coffee. It's hot outside, but I don't know what I'm in the mood for, so I need your guys' help on whether I should get a hot coffee or an iced coffee. So let me know what you guys think I should get.
Should I get an iced coffee or a hot coffee? Some of you are thinking most appropriately here, who cares? What are you doing except for this? Let me decide. Here's what happens here. That creators like this young lady, Maria Cutie, who may or may not be an actual person, may or may not be her name, this is all in beta testing, posts a video like this. It was a very real site for a while. And then what happens is you go on and you don't just vote for what Maria does. Maria, as a creator, has signed a contract saying that she will absolutely do what you vote for her to do, and you have to pay into the system directly for her to do it. And she receives monetary compensation. So she creates a video, or he creates a video and says, should I do A or B? Should we have a baby or not? Should we buy house A or house B? What color should this wall be? Should I take this way to work or that way to work? Now, as I said that, the greatest reaction was to the one where I said, should we have a baby or not? Because here's what happened. The more salacious, the more consequential, the more targeted the question, the more what? The more votes you get, the more people pay you. So it becomes this feedback for people who are on this side of it saying, I get to tell you what to do. I don't have a lot of control of anything in my life, but I get to log on here, pay a little bit of money, like $1 a vote, and maybe it's 50 cents. They can set the amount. And then I get to control your life, and we're bound to do it. And of course, well, is anybody forcing them to do it? Well, no. But nobody's forcing people in the last 16 years to start giving 7 hours of their day to the internet. So it becomes this continuous feedback. Now, rather than take my mind for, you all understand the implications of what this could become. You understand the things I'm not saying that could go on with this, right? Let me read you some quotes from the actual company so that you understand just how sinister this is, and then I'll tell you how pervasive it's going to be. They said this from their hiring website: we're building a digital marketplace where everyday people sell their decisions to those who control what they should do next. Nunu is on a mission to, here it is, folks, monetize human decisions. We want to monetize human decisions. That should scare the heck out of you. Wait, there's more. Nunu says this also from their hiring website. Nunu is a, quote, logical extension. A logical extension of what? Of what's already pervasive. We're already seeing that social media gives people dopamine hits for a simple like or a thumbs up. We thought, why not go ahead and make this logical next step? You have creators on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and Be Real who are making money from being great creators. They get it, but that's kind of the background. It's all about the content. We're not going to make the content a direct monetization where you get to vote on it. They said it's a logical extension to the social behavior that's so prevalent today. We're not doing something crazy. We're just taking the next step. And yet it also feels a little unreal, like playing a video game, but with real people. Nunu is a, quote, human stock market where you buy shares. Did you see that? Human stock market where you buy shares in the lives of real people in order to control their decisions and watch the outcome. Why do you care, Robbie? It's not hurting you. You're not on there. Why do you care? The danger here is unbelievable. Last quote from Nunu. The world took notice, because some of you are saying, I haven't heard of this. How prevalent can it be? The world took notice. They got in a lot of publications. And we now have some of the biggest inventors, prolific founders, and operators of the world's largest entertainment companies behind us to help shape the product. We're in the process of rebuilding an incredible experience. That's why it's offline. It was up online a year ago. Now it's offline because they're rebuilding it based on early user feedback. And we'd love to have you on board to help us disrupt the world. Check this out. We're backed by huge VCs, venture capitalists, like Anderson Horowitz. They funded Slack, Coinbase, Pinterest, and Clubhouse. The Founders Fund founded Facebook, Spotify, Airbnb, Lyft, SpaceX. Heard of any of those companies? And product leaders from Facebook, Google, Twitter, Netflix, and Disney. Do huge companies like that invest in things they think aren't going to make money? They believe with all their heart that this is the next wave of social media, and I think they might be right. How many of you are more fearful now than when you walked in here? Raise your hand. A little bit more fearful.